I haven't just put
my screen is just dark, black.
Yeah, my screen is dark because I have to come out of the other video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I won't be able to see the other participants.
No, you should be able to see them. Are you seeing them?
No, okay, I think I will. Hey, Monsa, you're here.
Yes.
Is this better? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh,
Perfect.
excellent. So welcome. I'll just go ahead and let you start and introduce yourself again, which I have already done, by the way, but you know, you can do better than me. So welcome. And I don't see your video. Let me see. Mwansa.
I turned it off. There we go.
Yes, please go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Apparently the last platform did not like me for some unknown reason. But anyway, my name is Mwansa Matokwani, and I am the managing director of Totilis Holding. So Totilis Holding is it's a holding company that is managing about 4 companies, and in those companies we have Totilis Consult, which is a consulting firm. We are in consultancy throughout multidisciplinary sections. We do consulting in environmental management, in conservation, tourism, and environmental management systems for companies. And I'm also the managing director of Green Earth Solutions. I am the founder and managing director there. So Green Earth Solutions is a one-stop shop for all waste management needs. We do in waste management and waste management consultancy, ranging from studies such as feasibility studies for waste management, capacity building around waste management, and equally around helping in structuring and influencing policies around waste management as well. And I think one of my other pride and joys under Totilis Holding is my very own NGO, which I founded at a very early stage when I just graduated from high school, called Malua Foundation. And that NGO works with women in environmental protection and women's empowerment. And we are so far spread out around Zambia, and we work with over 200 women in empowering them towards environmental protection and training them in waste management and recycling skills. So today I will be giving a short presentation. I'll start to share my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So one of my greatest passions in my line of work is that I'm very passionate around waste management. I'm a social and environmental scientist, and I do believe in a future where Zambia is clean, and I do believe where waste can continuously contribute to the economy in Zambia. So one of the issues that we notice in Zambia is that as the Zambian population continues to grow, so does the amount of waste that is produced on a daily basis, which is obviously expected, because the more people you have in a country or a community, then the more waste that they'll produce on a daily basis. However, the amount of waste that is produced in Zambia on a daily basis has continuously increased at a faster rate than the capacity of the local council to manage that waste. As a result, it leads to pollution, as the local council and even companies that are in waste management are now overwhelmed by the amount of waste that is being produced in that country. So what exactly are some of those reasons? Why is there such a gap or a discrepancy in the amount of waste that is being produced and in the capacity to manage that waste? So I'll just talk about a few challenges that are currently being faced in Zambia around waste management. So the first one is low capital or low financing in terms of the financial capacity that the government has, or even companies that are involved in waste management have to manage the waste, is equally extremely low. And there is also a lack of proper policy implementation in waste management. And when I mean proper implementation, it also goes back again to financing, because for you to formulate a proper policy, especially around implementation, there is need for a good amount of money, or for the government to have good finances to actually implement a policy effectively. And one of the things we notice is that there are also limited strategies and business models around tackling waste management in Zambia. So one of the things we normally see people do is that everybody knows that if you collect waste, you take it to the dump site. And that even means like companies that are getting registered in waste collection. There is very little innovation of what can be done with the waste besides taking it to the dump site. And furthermore, there is also lack of technology and infrastructure, because currently in Zambia, we do not have a functioning engineered landfill. We did have one a long time ago. We had Chunga landfill, but it is now a dump site because it collapsed a long time ago. As a result, there is there's pretty much nowhere that the waste can go to be properly processed besides taking it to Chunga dump site. And the situation currently at Chunga dump site continues to become more and more devastating, because the dump site is full and it continues to grow in size because there is more waste being packed there. It is not processed, it is not compressed. As a result, it is covering volumes of space. And not only that, the boundaries between the residential areas and the Chunga dump site itself are becoming completely blurred, because the Chunga dump site is now blocking roads, and where's more, there is water pollution at Chunga dump site there in about a 400 to 1 kilometer radius around Chunga dump site. Most of the water that has been tested for water quality has been found that it is contaminated with leachate that is coming from the dump site, which is becoming very alarming. And not only that, we are now facing a challenge with mortality rates around Chunga dump site because the area has no boundaries. So children get to access the dump site at any time, and some children actually end up dying right there in the dump site. The last report I got was in February, where we had, I think, about 3 children that died at Chunga dump site. And this is information that I got from the waste pickers themselves, because I work very closely with the waste pickers at Chunga and different dump sites that are spread out around Zambia. So we also have the situation of inadequate manpower and capacity. If you look at the amount of waste that is being produced and the amount of people that are put on the ground to manage that waste, the gap is enormous. There aren't a lot of people that have been placed in those positions to manage the waste, obviously for issues to do with financing, because you have to pay those people at the end of the day. And even when it comes to capacity, there is need to also increase the amount of knowledge around waste management. And when I talk about capacity building, I mean capacity building across the board. That is in the public sector, in the private sector, and most importantly, through the schools and universities. One of the ways that we can actually improve on that, which I'll explain later, is that there is need to see more skills training and capacity building, especially around even TVET skills in small colleges and institutions where people are actually trained to recycle or process certain materials. Because in our interactions with SMEs and informal waste pickers and waste collections, one of the things they have mentioned is that they want to process the waste. Once they collect it, they want to do something with it, but they don't have the skill. Yes, we do see a lot of skills training popping up in our country. We do see tailoring, we do see baking, but you rarely see anyone setting up a skills training center to train people on how to process plastic waste. So when it comes to waste management, we cannot discuss waste management without talking about the people who are actually collecting them. And that is the informal sector. So the informal sector plays a critical role when it comes to closing the loop in the circular economy, because in countries like Zambia, where we have poor waste collection systems, the gap that is left behind by the municipalities is filled in by the informal sector. And when I mean the informal sector, I mean the small businesses, the informal waste pickers, the people that we see picking waste in the markets, in the streets, and selling them to the recycling companies. These are actually the people that are helping to reduce the amount.
Sorry, Martha, may you all mute yourself, please? May you mute, please? The chair, if you can maybe mute all and leave the speaker, please. Martha, you can go ahead. Hello, Mansa, can you hear me?
Mansa, you can go ahead, please.
You can go ahead.
Mansa, you can go ahead. Yes.
Yes, I can hear you. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. So I was talking about the informal sector and how they have been participating in waste management in Zambia and in many African countries at large. So the efforts made by the informal sector have continuously helped to reduce the amount of pollution and even the amount of waste that is taken to the dump site. Yes, it's true that the dump site is overwhelmed with waste. It's true that our streets are polluted, but it could have been worse without the informal sector. And even as the interest around recycling continue to grow in the country, you can even evidently see that certain waste material types are slowly disappearing from the streets and the markets, which shows the effective work that the people in the informal sector are playing. So another thing I like to discuss when talking about waste management is the gender perspective. How do we view the informal sector or waste management through a gender lens? Like I mentioned, we have a waste management problem, and who is sorting out that problem? We have the municipal council, and we also have the informal sector. But who is really in the informal sector? If it's true, if it is indeed true that the informal sector is contributing towards the reduction of pollution and waste in Zambia, at the backbone of the informal sector, it's actually the women. On a global scale, women make up majority of the workforce in the informal sector. In other words, women make up majority of the workforce in waste management in Zambia and in many other countries as well. But despite them making up majority of this sector, it does not mean that they will get first priority when it comes to funding or any opportunity that may be there, because as usual, the women
It's like we have lost her. Madam Moderator, if you can just come in.
Yes, I think we have lost Mansa. While we wait, what do you? I'll pick on by Evans. I always pick on by Evans to come in when something like this happens. Evans, what do you think so far about the presentation as we wait for Mansa to join in?
Thank you, Madam Moderator, and welcome viewers and listeners. So far, so good. I'm learning quite a lot, and I'm pretty sure by the end of this our presentation, we're going to have some stuff, to contribute and, to figure out. Already, I've got a couple of questions which I'm going to lay before her table. Thank you so much, Madam Moderator.
Thank you. Maria.
Yes, good evening. Good evening. Thank you. Yes, indeed, it's a very interesting program. Nice to get to know that we have young ladies like Mwansa, an advocate, an activist in this problem that the country is facing at the moment. And indeed, can't wait to go as far as the end of the program, or maybe where we're going to have an interactive part to ask us some questions. Thank you.
Okay, Brenda, anything from you?
Hello, everyone. Sorry, I can't show my face. My connection is also quite bad. Yes. Interesting, actually, like the others have said, it's quite interesting to get insights. Especially my main interest is the point that she just raised before she got cut off. This is the gender aspect, yeah. The women's role in this problem, and what is it that we are doing as a country, as a sector in Zambia to try and equalize the whole ball game. So I'm quite curious, and I think I also have a bit of questions after she has done her presentation. Great program, actually.
Yes,
quite insightful. Yes,
indeed, great program, and I think we have her back. Mwansa, are you back? Okay, if she's not yet back, please
Yes, I
write down
am.
your
Okay.
questions. Oh, she's back. She's back. Write down your questions, and we can shoot to her once she finishes our presentation. Please, Mwasa, back to you.
Okay, can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Is it possible to put it in full screen, Mwasa?
Yes. Let's see.
And if you can put your camera, madam, it would be very nice so that people they see me talking.
If I can switch on my camera.
Yes, please, possible.
Okay. My laptop is acting funny. Okay. Okay. All right, there we go. Okay. Okay, so I would just pick up from where I left. Let's see. Sorry. Okay, so I'll pick up from where I left in talking about the gender perspective on waste management. So I do believe that in order for us to address any issues around waste management in Zambia, there is need for us to look at it through a gender lens, because majority of the people, the majority of the workforce in waste management are actually the women. So the lack of proper working services in the waste management sector have a tremendous effect in the lives of the women, because they are constantly exposed to harsh environments, and because they tend to go to the dump sites and actually work in waste management with their children are equally exposed to hazardous material. And then furthermore, the lack of proper conditions in women constantly contribute to the increasing gap in gender inequality, because they leave women more vulnerable than before. Because we believe that an independent woman is a strong woman, and a woman that is financially dependent is actually more likely to face any kind of gender discrimination or abuse. So the issue that is needed to be addressed, especially when it comes to waste management and addressing the gender issues, is that there is need for women to also be involved when it comes to decisions and designing projects around waste management, because these projects will actually be working closely with a lot of women. So one of the things that we have identified that we believe could improve waste management in Zambia is that there is need for increased finances through implementation of EPR, which is the extended producer responsibility. So this simply means that the producer is responsible for the disposal of the waste post-consumer. After the consumer has used it, whoever has produced the waste or imported the waste should contribute towards the disposal of this waste. And this is the financial mechanism that has been used in many countries, and a lot of countries are actually even now adopting it, because it creates a fund that allows the government to actually have the financial muscle and keep up with the amount of waste that is being produced on a daily basis. We do have it in Zambia. We still have to work around the implementation of the policy itself, but we do believe that with a few panel beatings here and there and just cleaning out a few lacunas in the law, it could actually bring tremendous results in our country. And we also believe in proper enforcement of waste management policies. But of course, for the enforcement to be done, like I mentioned, there is also need to build on capacity and finances. But there is need for proper enforcement when it comes to laws or policies around waste management. And one of the things we do believe in is that there is a need to support the development of associations and cooperatives for waste pickers. Because waste pickers are actually the workforce around waste management, it is important that they're in a form of structure, an association or a cooperative, because that way it is very easy for any institution or organization to actually assist them with some form of funding, capacity building, and even market linkages for them to actually improve their businesses. And number 4, there is also a need to set up infrastructure for waste management. And this means waste treatment facilities as well as recycling facilities in the country, and also building capacity. Like I mentioned, there is need for us to introduce skills training and development around waste management and recycling. And there is also a need to increase a mindset change around waste. And that means from teaching people to take responsibility for the waste that is produced in their homes or office spaces, and even just for them to see waste from a different light. And that brings us to our next discussion. And here we are going to be talking about from waste to gold. And this is where we actually change the entire perspective of how people look at waste. Because when I look at waste, I don't really see something that somebody has thrown away and it will never be used again, because waste is a resource. And one thing we know about resources is that when you want something to disappear, you give it a value. So if you want waste to disappear, then you give it a value. With increased recycling capacity in the country, it will slowly lead to a demand for plastic waste by the recycling companies, either in the country or outside the country. But as a result, you start seeing that these types of materials will disappear. I'll give a practical example of one waste material that is slowly becoming rare. Like if you walk around the streets in Lusaka, it's not something that you easily come across. And that is the plastic waste that is defined as the HDPE material. So this is the tough plastic that is used for like plastic basins or plastic chairs that our children use at school or in our home. So far, that plastic material has the highest market value. And as a result, you won't see it on the streets, because immediately when the waste pickers see it, they take it out of the streets. And then most of the materials that you see left behind, those are the ones that have the lowest market value. And waste is a resource and has the potential to contribute towards the economy. Because when we talk about the circular economy, closing in the loop, we mean creating money through processing of waste and the collection of waste, and even reducing on the amount of raw materials that are taken from the environment to create new products. So one of the things is that proper waste management does not mean just cleaning the environment and having a serene environment. It also means job creation and improved livelihood, because with proper structures, proper business models, it is possible to actually create more jobs through recycling facilities, waste treatment facilities, material recovering facilities, transfer stations, you name it. All these infrastructures will need manpower and the result of livelihood. And I do like to throw this joke around, because I do believe that once the mineral veins run out, the waste streams will still continue. It's definitely something that that most people will find amusing, but for me, I actually do take it seriously, because when you do have a gold mine, eventually you will run out of gold, but you're never going to run out of waste. And therefore, there is always going to be that resource available for people to actually process and make money from. And not only that, if we start discussing even issues around e-waste, you can see that there is a lot of continuous extraction these days of minerals from e-waste that was put in when they were making those products. So that shows that there is actually a large future around urban mining when it comes to waste management. So in my work, I have engaged with Border Zambia. Totilis Consult there is my company, and GES. So this project is called Wash and Soul, which we're currently implementing in Zambia, Mandevu. Right now, as we speak, the project is running. So this is a capacity building project for SMEs and people operating in the informal sector around waste management and water and sanitation. So the WASH project aims to build entrepreneurial capacity, and we also do market linkages. We connect them to platforms, we connect them to organizations like e-commerce by Maria and Women in Action. And we are really excited to show the world once this project is complete, because what we are doing is that we have taken the complex concepts in waste management, like circular economy, extended producer responsibility, concepts like business models, and we have actually toned them down to a point where a person who has never been to school, but is actually contributing daily to the collection of waste through the informal sector, can understand. And from this project, we are going to produce about 30 bankable business plans from the informal sector and SMEs. And we are going to be floating these business plans for the Community Development Fund. They're going to be funded for their businesses to actually grow and have a structure. And there are other partners that will be coming on board as well to support these entrepreneurs. And we have also effectively carried out the Green Book project with our partners from Germany called Black Forest Solutions. So the Green Book project is like one of the most different projects that I've ever implemented around waste management. And I really just love to talk about this project, because when we talk about waste management, the next word you hear is recycling, which is great when you recycle materials. But sometimes as a waste management expert, we are caught up in situations where you can see recycling companies, but you can still see the streets dirty. Now you're a bit wondering, like, why is it still messy when we have all these recycling companies there? So there is an issue about multi-layered packaging materials that are very difficult to recycle. Some classify them as difficult to recycle. Some will classify them as non-recyclable materials. So I'm talking about things like cornflakes boxes, milk cartons. I'm talking about things like cigarette boxes. Because they are filled with different materials, it is very difficult for any waste picker to actually trade them to any recycler. As a result, they are just left on the street. And if you remember what I mentioned, I said that you can actually tell which materials have a low market value just by looking at the streets. And one of these materials are the multi-layered packaging materials, which actually make majority of the packaging materials, because the companies are interested in branding, in preserving their products. So they have to mix up a lot of materials, but at the end of the day, these materials are not recyclable. So we did a training with over 30 youths and women, actually over 40 youths and women in Siavonga, because it was a marine protection project, where we actually trained them on how to identify these materials, how to sort them, and how to process them, and where they can actually sell them. So far, these materials have been incorporated in the cement factory. They're being used by Lafarge and Dangote as an alternative source of energy, because these materials have a high calorific value due to their nature of being multi-layered with different materials. So our next steps in trying to tackle, to continuously try and tackle waste management in Zambia is that we want to set up training hubs that are designed to give business or individuals working in the informal sector access to skills training and technical support, funding, and market linkages. So the same way we do have training hubs that are targeted around agriculture, that are targeted around HIV and AIDS or gender-based violence, we want to set up these training hubs that are designed for that particular type of people, which are the people in the informal sector or the SMEs working in waste management. Because one of the challenges that we do see is that we can have a training hub, but it is so technical, and many times the people in the informal sector do not feel welcome or comfortable to be in that environment. So these training hubs will be tailor-made for those people. And next, we want to start the establishment of PROs, which are producer responsibility organizations in partnerships with the government. So these PROs actually carry out the implementation of EPR, the extended producer responsibility. So they help the government create a fund that will give them the financial muscle to actually manage the waste that is produced on a daily basis. Not only the government, it also means that it will also support the recycling companies, support SMEs and companies that are operating in waste management by creating a fund and also creating a platform where they can actually access funds even outside the country. So one of the things we also want to be doing and increase on is capacity building for businesses and individuals working in waste management, both in the private and the public sector. Like I mentioned, when it comes to waste management, there are all these new terminologies and concepts that are coming on board. Therefore, there is need for us to increase the capacity and understanding around these concepts and how we can design them and tailor-make them to actually suit the Zambian scenario. Because that is actually one of the challenges we've had when it comes to EPR implementation in Zambia, is that the understanding of the concept itself was not well understood in the beginning. And most companies or companies in production or the importers don't even know what that means or even how they're supposed to participate. So this is where the capacity building comes in. And we also continuously try to facilitate partnership amongst countries to address waste management in their region. Like recently in February, we carried out a SADC conference for countries in the SADC region to actually address circular economy regulations in the SADC region. So we do need such conversations on a regular basis amongst countries, amongst companies across different regions, just to work together and create solutions together. Because if you're going to come up with a good strategy with waste management, there is need for you to work with your neighbors, especially when you're a landlocked country like Zambia, and you want to regulate the importation of waste, to actually keep track of the importation of packaged goods so that you can actually calculate how much waste will be produced in your country. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for listening to my short presentation. And, now we can have our questions.
Oh, thank you so much, Mwansa, for that wonderful presentation. That's a very detailed presentation, and I'm sure everybody has enjoyed it. I won't take so much of the time, but I will go to, I think I left it at Brenda, who wanted to ask a question, and then anybody, please just raise your hand and I will see it in the comments so that you can ask your question. Brenda, please go ahead.
Maybe she can stop sharing so that the people
yes.
that visit as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great presentation from Mwansa. And like I said, quite insightful and interesting to see what kind of efforts are being made to tackle the waste management challenges that the country is facing. Mine was on the fact that we are talking of infrastructure, which you highlighted as one of the challenges, that we do not have proper functional infrastructure. Chunga is overfilled and all these vices that come on board. How is your networking as a sector that is trying to complement government sector with the government as regards to what exactly, because I believe the more we have such kind of recycling plants and everything else, you talked of financial challenges, there is still some expectation from government to put in place certain policies and a bit of money towards big capital projects that would help curb the situation. What has been your experience, or what is laid down that probably is not yet known to the public, that there's efforts that are being made for us to, I mean, right now we are focusing on Lusaka. I'm sure the other parts of the country also are facing similar challenges. But would you maybe highlight some of the efforts that we can look forward to help curb the situation?
Yes, actually, we have already started making a lot of effort, actually, and I think we're really close to some form of breakthrough at this point. So yes, we do need infrastructure, and you're absolutely right. That infrastructure needs a lot of money. We're talking about millions of dollars just to set up a waste treatment facility. And the question always goes back, will the government borrow money? Will they depend on a grant or a donation for them to have the money to actually have to set up that infrastructure? And honestly, that is a long shot. You cannot depend on a donation or a grant to set up infrastructures like that. And that is what takes us back to EPR. Because in my many interactions with investors to actually rehabilitate or decommission or try to bring some change around Chunga dam site and mini dam sites, is that it all leads back to EPR. Because the extended producer responsibility was made effect in Zambia in 2018, actually. But there are some gaps in the way the law was actually laid down in terms of the producer was not well defined. the levy that a producer or importer is supposed to pay towards the disposal of that waste was equally not well defined. But that is something that we have been working closely with the local government and even the Ministry of Green Economy to address. Because once we do have an effective EPR on board, it will be able to create a fund in terms of that the importer and the producer will be able to contribute towards the collection and treatment of that waste. But not only that, the existence of a proper effective EPR, the existence of a proper PRO actually creates an environment that is welcoming for investors to actually invest in the country around waste management, because then they'll know that their money will be properly monitored. I do believe that, yes, there are some PROs that are existing in Zambia, but they are not the PRO that I believe our country needs at this point. Because a PRO is a money-making mechanism that was designed to give the government financial muscle. But when a PRO is being run by a producer, then it is very difficult for us to keep track of the money that is being made by that PRO and where the money is actually going. Because what the government needs to actually put up that infrastructure is an effective PRO where they are actually a partner in it, not just a standby or a regulator watching the PRO do whatever they want to do, these PROs that are established by the producer. There is need for actually establishment of a partnership between the PRO and the government so that the fund is transparent. As a result, it creates a proper environment that even invites more investment into the country to actually bring in funds and the establishment of infrastructure around waste management. And just to conclude on that, I should also mention that I have, in the past years, months, weeks, actually sat down with several investors that are interested in investing in Zambia in terms of setting up engineered landfills, waste treatment facilities, recycling facilities, but most of them do want to partner with the government. That's the business model that they do prefer. But without that in place, it shows that there are gaps and cracks, and there will be no proper monitoring of the funds. As a result, they tend to shun away. But so far, so good. With the discussions that we've had with the local government and the Ministry of Green Economy, I do believe that we should be seeing some progress by the end of the year. Thank you.
And just a follow-up, sorry, but Chair, just a follow-up to that, Mansa.
Yes.
What kind, you mentioned of this partnership with the Black Forest here in Germany with Lafarge, I think. And it's quite interesting because Lafarge is one of the biggest companies that one can tap into and say, okay, can we try and do some kind of interventions for us to try and minimize wastage or waste management. We have big companies, Lever Brothers, whichever, who are producing massives and massives of products that end up, probably the packaging ends up on the street. On the other hand, even if the company is willing, for instance, to say, okay, we can enter into that, I think the main challenge lies within the communities and their mindsets. And they also need motivation. We are talking of people who are poor backgrounds, they're trying to make their ends meet. They need a financial gain from that. And for you to actually motivate them to practice certain vices that are going to assist us, they know that, okay, if I do this, I don't have to litter, I can still keep my waste and it's going to benefit me. This is gold I'm sitting on. But if I have no market to take my garbage to, it's a whole dynamic. On the other hand, you have the task of motivating people to actually bring in their garbage at a cost. As a business venture, there's also the skills part of it. It's not just bringing it to a dump site or to a factory that is going to recycle. On the other side, it's about broadening their mindset to say, what can I do with this garbage that I'm producing or that we are producing? How are you motivating the community interest to actually kind of try practicing good waste management practices. It's a challenge, and I see a lot of that. I see, Simon, we were trying to make changes there, but I think it all goes down to, even if I collect it, then so what? I'm still suffering. I do not have money to buy food stuff for my family. What is the financial gain at the end of it? I don't know how you look at how you balance this aspect in the communities that you're actually working in. Sorry to take over, but
no, I actually do love your questions. I really, really do love your questions. You are literally, you're speaking about the realities on the ground, and you're absolutely right. There are always these motivations that need to be put in place. And when it comes to motivations for proper waste management, they're like in two groups. So you have the issue with where does the waste end up? You know, you have the Chunga dump site there. And there is also the issue of making the money through the recycling companies. So I'll tell you this for a fact. There are a lot of individuals and companies that are interested in sorting of waste from source, because waste management is pretty much managing the waste across the entire value chain from when it is produced, transported, and disposed. So the first thing is that, like you mentioned, how do we create an incentive? So here are people, and you've spoken to them about waste management, sort out your waste, put your plastic, your glass, and your paper in different containers, and they do that. But then, because we don't have a lot of recycling facilities in certain parts of the country, we don't have transfer stations or material recovery facility. A waste management company or a truck will come up, pick up the waste, dump it in the same truck. After you've made the effort to separate it, it still ends up in one truck and then goes to the dump site. And then here's a company, when you go to their company, you see about 7 bins lined up, but those 7 bins will still end up in one bin that will go to the dump site. As a result, that becomes discouraging. And then when it comes to recycling, it is indeed possible. We do have some of our business partners that we work with. We do have a good entrepreneur coming on board called Ibusaka. So he has designed an app where people can actually download it on their phones in their homes. And when they sort out the waste, they can actually put in the data in the app of how much waste they have produced. And then the data is automatically sent to recycling companies. So certain households are actually already selling their household waste directly from their homes to recycling companies. But what about if we're discussing areas like Chawama, Mandevu, or peri-urban areas where people do not own smartphones? You know, the app won't work there. So with that, we are actually working with Border, and we're already constructing MRFs, material recovery facilities that are already inbuilt in particular communities, where a person can literally sort out their waste from home. It's always within a walking distance. We calculate the radius around it, and then you take the waste there, and then it is weighed, and you're given money for that. And I have already tested that business model before, so it won't be a strange thing for us to implement it, even in Mandevu, because one, like I mentioned, there is need for us to broaden our spectrum and innovation around waste management. Waste management does not only mean buy a truck, collect waste from someone's house, and then take it to the dump site. Because we did test out a business model where if people really don't want to pay for those services, or maybe the road is impassable, because there are those situations, especially in communities where there are unplanned households, a truck can't access the place. But how do you manage an area in a place where you can't take your truck? So you create a business model where you actually teach people on how they can sort their waste and where they can bring it to. So you create your own local transfer stations within that community, and people know to say on Tuesday, on Thursday, I take my waste to this place. There are people waiting for me with scales, they weigh the scales, and then they pay me for the waste. And this business model has been very effective because we actually work with the local youths, especially because there's this concept that a lot of people use called junkies. They say the youths have nothing to do. And honestly, I do believe that who better to address the problem than the one who sees it up close. So we get these very youths in the community, train them on how they can measure waste, identify which waste has been well sorted, they measure it, and then those people are actually paid. for the waste that they've collected. So now the issue is just about broadening that business model across different communities. And you make sure that whatever business model that you are using to manage waste management is properly designed for that particular community, because there is no one shoe fits all when it comes to waste management. It doesn't work. Yeah.
True.
Oh, thank you for that elaborate explanation. All aspects, because I also had a similar question like Brenda. But do you think the Lusaka City Council or any other Kafue, for instance, or Ndola or Copperbelt or everywhere in Zambia, do you think that the sensitization of how to get rid of the waste or in the domestic waste in homes, you know, are people being sensitized about that? Is there a program that can be followed? I know you mentioned a training hub that is underway. How many people are attracted to do that? Is it just the junkies, or homes are learning now on how to dispose of their waste?
Maybe before Amansa comes in, Edwin has raised his hand. If you can combine the two questions. Edwin, please.
Okay. Edwin, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mansa, for the very insightful, I think, explanation in terms of the business model. Obviously, for a city like Lusaka, waste management can be a gold, because just of the sheer volume of waste produced by people living in our high density areas. The problem of waste management is not in Kablonga, Ibex Hill, Minwood, or Woodlands. It is in Misisi, Zingalume, Chazanga, Chawama. That's where we have a big problem. The clogging of the waterways, the drainages, is happening in the CBD. Just Lusaka CBD, Freedom Way, Freedom Way, Lumumba, and Soweto itself, the amount of waste that is generated in those places is mind-blowing. Now, the solution, you will notice when you get around our low-income areas that they just dump waste in the road. You know. So they just, each household just goes and empties its waste in the road. And over time, as vehicles pass and people, then the waste just, it's amazing. Yeah, but so when you come up with a business model, it has to take into account the low income. Obviously, this is essentially, I always say, Zambia is essentially a base of the pyramid country. It's a low income country because 60% or so are still viewed as poor. So the habits in this high volume waste generating is that to incentivize a person not to go and dump the PEP bottle, the plastic bottle of water, or indeed plastic waste, because there's so much plastic, especially in terms of solid waste. Plastic is the major form of solid waste coming out of our places. Yeah. And so you need to be able to involve them, I think, in the value chain, once, as you said. There has to be a very deliberate design that ensures that these people can take the trouble, not of emptying this in the street, in the roadside, but to actually keep it so that the issue of the truck that cannot pass through Chazanga, maybe women riding tricycles, what you call with those people, Maria, I think the women who can pick this waste, like you work with women groups that pick this waste, maybe drive it to the transfer, as I mentioned about the transfer place. That is a more sustainable model, and it will result in those women groups any income, and to the company, the waste management company, being able to have a regular supply to take to the recyclers and to sort it out, so that the landfill issue doesn't become a problem as we run out of land for landfill. Thank you. I just thought I could say that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Edwin, for that contribution. And you're absolutely right. That is exactly what happens. The people do take their garbage right to the road. So actually what they even like to do is that sometimes they would pay one of the young men like a 5 kwacha or a 10 kwacha to carry a bag of waste that they've been storing at the back of their house and say, go and throw this. And when we interviewed some of them, we asked them, do you know where they throw it? And they were like, no, I have no idea where it goes. So that is why I definitely do believe that when it comes to waste management, we really need to have a gender perspective, because the one that gave that young boy the sack to go and throw it is a woman, because women are the ones that are usually doing the cleaning around the house. So even when you start to talk about sensitization and awareness, we start with the households. Mostly we start to call meetings for just women. Mostly we try to just make it a women's group. We don't involve the men in it, so that we give them the space and the freedom to voice out their views and speak. And we tell them about the program that we have, like especially in Mandevu, where we're setting up these MRS. We talk to the women about the benefits of them sorting the waste and how much money they can raise from that at the end of the day. As a result, when they see their neighbor doing it, and at the end of the week, their neighbor has a 50 kwacha, a 60 kwacha, 100 kwacha, they buy food for their family. Eventually, it starts to bring out that motivation to say, okay, let me do that as well. Because yes, it's true, some roads are impassable. So we need to be creative with our business models. And even the distance between some communities and the dump site is extremely high. So because waste collectors will calculate the distance between the community and the dump site, and that is how they'll come up with their monthly charge. So if the distance is too high, then the monthly charge is too high, then immediately people will shun away from paying that. And obviously you do not expect the council to start harassing them to pay that fee. So eventually the area continues to become polluted. So there is always a need to actually just reduce on the amount of waste or the thought of taking the waste to the dump site. Because when you create these mature recovery facilities in neighborhoods, then people can take the waste there. And then when it comes from the mature recovery facilities, it goes directly to the recyclers. And the recyclers are always more than happy to follow mature recovery facilities to pick up those waste material. And when it comes to your question, Regina, around sensitization by the local government, in some communities, yes, the local government is carrying out sensitization. Do all the local governments want to carry out sensitization? Absolutely. Because in my line of work and with many years experience, I've come to understand that there is a lot of effort that is actually being made by the local government, but they are operating on a very low budget. So when you have this low budget, you can either spend it on collecting the waste that is heaping up at the markets, or you can spend it on sensitization. So what would they pick? They'll pick the obvious choice of spending the funds on collection, even if it won't be enough. But yes, there is an effort that is made by some of them. There's an effort that is made by even other groups to increase on sensitization and awareness, but it is not a one man's job. It is not just the responsibility of the local government. It is the responsibilities of companies like mine, like GES, Maloa Foundation. We are NGOs and companies that can have access to other funds and grants easily without the bureaucracy that the local government has to undergo to just simply access grants or get approval to do a sensitization workshop. So in other words, there is need for partnership with the local government. We need more people to start partnering with the local governments in their community, because from my interactions with most of them, I don't know if Mrs. Katete is here from the local government in Lusaka, but I have interacted with local government, especially in Lusaka, in Siavonga, in Chipata. You can tell that they're actually very welcoming to ideas and will actually even work with you in how you can actually coordinate these sensitization awareness programs. And even the local government has been participating even in the capacity building trainings that have been happening around the different peri-urban areas that we're doing with the WASH project. So they have been involved in the structuring of the business models. And we also work with the WDCs from the onset to actually even contribute to how they want that model to look like, or how they want the waste management situation to be tackled in their community. Thank you.
Okay, Evans, please. I think you're on mute.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, yes, now you are.
Oh, pretty good. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much. Awesome presentation, Wamonsa. Well done. You are such a young lady and achieved quite a lot and doing quite great stuff for our beloved country, Zambia. Now, I'm quite sure. I believe that in order to correct today's problem, first and foremost, in any endeavor, want us to go back and reflect what happened in the historical events of such kind of a problem. Now, when we talk about waste management, I still remember, I may look so young, but I've lived longer on this earth. I was born in Chimwemwe and grew up in Chimwemwe. In the post-independence times, okay, somewhere until the late 70s or early 80s, waste management was so superb. Each household had what we called ingongulu, the bins where we would throw things automatically. When Mama gave me something to throw, I wouldn't just, throw it anyhow. I would go to our bin labeled 2683. That was our house number. Also our neighbors, just like that. And things were controlled. And I think after 2 weeks came what we call Chikabebeuna. Okay, the trucks that collected these bins and they took them. I remember there was a site in Kwakumbuchi, somewhere there, we call it Kumarabo, and one I think in Ganaton, where we would even say, umusungu nafalama jombo, aliangela mufisoso. Those were managed by our colonial masters. And Chimamo was clean, Buchi was clean, even Kumashat compounds were clean. The conscientization which was there, I still remember there were clips on the television, radios about those stuff, how cholera can cover and stuff. It got inculcated at the back of our minds. Now, when Zambianization fully came through in the 70s, 75 and stuff, we took over as Zambians. You know what I'm talking about. We saw Ingonguru, Abantu Ambo, we started stealing Ingonguru. Okay? I would go and throw in our neighbors Ingonguru, and it became normal. Later on, Ingonguru were gone. Those machineries where we used to watch Kumalabo recycling stuff being done disappeared. What have you learned? Or you could not have had lived that time of Mwanza, but through your projects and your researches, what lessons have you learned so much that even when you're trying to do efforts, I know you are coming to Germany, probably gonna take some great machines to Zambia, and what lessons have you learned so much that even when you brought back home the old system, which was so superb, there would be continuity? Because after early 80s until today, it's been a problem. Governments in, governments out. Have you looked into that aspect? Otherwise, if you do not solve what transpired before, you're going to bring the best experts, the best machinery. At the end of the day, things are going to disappear. Not only conscientizing the people through there, through here and there. There's much more to that. Maintenance and continuity. That's the problem that I figured out on our beautiful country of Zambia. That's my question, Mwasamkwai.
Yes, thank you very much, sir, for that point. And you're absolutely right. And it's quite funny because today somebody was actually even telling me that once, do you know, in the olden days, our streets were clean and we even had milk delivered to our doorsteps. I was not there in those times. So, so I was like, what? Milk delivered to the doorstep, there was that amount of organization. And through our many interactions and studies, honestly, I think, like, I believe the blame has to be spread across. And when we sit in such forums, it's always important to be honest. You're absolutely right. There is always an issue of poor management, laissez-faire work culture, work when you want, niva boma, you don't really care. And there is also usually poor monitoring and evaluation after a project is implemented or funding is given or machinery is bought. A machinery can be bought, a shock is broken, it's packed. You know, the lights are broken, it's packed. So even in our discussions, especially when we're partnering, even with any organization, it's not only the government now that are behaving in that way, even the private sector, even NGOs are behaving in that way. So there is always that need where when you do something, you never really just leave it and walk away. You constantly have to keep track of it. You have to even do not assume people know how to manage it simply because you found them in an office. That is why we always emphasize on capacity building. Before you implement something, at least take time to do awareness trainings, take time to do capacity training, show them what management of that particular facility or infrastructure or equipment looks like. Create indicators. What are you going to be using to measure impact after that? There has to be that constant eye on projects. And you're absolutely right. I think that is a challenge that we do have. And so you can even see machineries being packed, you know, really good waste management trucks being packed. And when you ask what is really wrong with it, you find the issue is small. Like you're talking about 5,000 kwacha, you have it repaired, but yet it's still going to be there. So those are issues that we definitely do make an effort to voice out. And I do believe that is an approach any project developer, investor, or an advocate like myself should take, to say when you're partnering with any organization, we really need to create those business morals and standards on how work is supposed to be done. I really wish you used to take videos in those days to show us the 90s of how Zambia was clean. I think it would be a great thing to see, so that we don't believe that it's only the Western world that is clean and that we're once like that. Yeah.
Just to add on that one, sorry, Madam Chair Lady. Yeah, honestly speaking, because those days, it's just like here, I'm in Germany myself. A German wouldn't think things would be that, but we could even drink Zikoro, Mumufolo Natrika, Meshelekta, clean water, rainwater and stuff. Even when you talk about recycling plastic bottles and kind of stuff, I found in Germany here, I mean, bottles, we have to take them back. You get your money. It used to happen. We used to call them bachinja bottle. He knocks on the door. Do you have Coca-Cola bottles? Plus, you know, we didn't know that you get things could go such worse off. So I wish you all the very best. Trying to correct the measures. You missed life.
You.
We enjoyed
we
life.
We need that. You should really wish us the best.
Yeah, that's very true. Thank you so much, Evans, for that contribution. And, you know, on recycling, just adding on, because I'm also from the Copper Belt, you know, the bottle tops of Coca-Cola, once you open it, there was always an incentive. You know, you see maybe a footballer, maybe, you know, something like that. So children worked hard to drink Coca-Cola, to put the lid somewhere and keep that, just that picture. You remember, by Evans? We sound so colonial, but those things really, really happened. Even in Mufulira, my house was 27 Chileve Avenue, and we had our bin. when we knew that the Vakangungulu, I don't know whether you were calling them the same way. We used to call them Vakangungulu baisa, you know, things like that. And all that because we were, but sensitization was very high. So I'm thinking this sensitization, we need to go back to the roots to start educating the kids from school. At 2.5 years, once you get those kids, just the same thing we teach our children. Yes, please, no, thank you. They can learn on how to differentiate plastic and paper. So if we start, I think the whole curriculum, I think in the Ministry of Education should just be revamped, completely revamped. The road system, the municipal councils should revamp their system, the town planning. The waste management is part of them. All of it needs a revamp because you mentioned the West, you're coming to Germany. How about Zimbabwe and Rwanda? Those who have gone to Zimbabwe and Rwanda will agree with me that those are clean cities. Do they beat them? No, they don't beat them to throw garbage in the bin. No, they don't. So I think once we learn as Zambians, because this attitude of saying cha government, who is the government? The government is us. Yeah. The government is us. On the copper belt, so we were used. The school I went to in the morning, the first thing you started doing before you went to parade is to pick up leaves and papers around the school. Put them in a bin ya mabula na bin ya mapepala. We did that. And that's so many years ago. You won't believe, but those things did happen, you know?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it did. And I'll pass on the floor to Vice Chair. She has raised her hand. And Mwasa, you can answer us all together once Vice Chair finishes her question, please. Nancy, are you there? If Nancy is not ready, Edwin, I think. Oh, but Edwin, is that your hubby or your brother?
My dad. That's my dad and business partner.
Okay.
Yes.
I can't see him. I just see the name. So, Dad Matokwani, it's your flow, please.
Thank you very much, Regina, and the others. Thank you very much, my daughter. This has really been very, very good. By the way, Mwansa is my daughter, and we work together.
Wow.
We've been going to the field together each day, you know, in the constituency, Mandev constituency, and all other places. Yeah, I think what we need to learn is that, you know, as Zambians, we have seen where we are from and where we are going and what has happened. I'm glad that, you know, we are going back to remember what used to happen in those colonial days. But what has happened now is that, you know, our population has actually increased. And, you know, there are a lot of things that have happened which have made actually, you know, the solid waste to increase. So what we need to do is now to put in certain things, you know, structures that should actually address this problem that we are facing now. I think one of the issues that Mwansa did allude to was the material recovery facilities. Also, I think we need sensitization, especially in these areas, where we have a lot of people, high density areas. I think, these are supposed to be our target areas so that, we sensitize people in those areas, and then, we put those facilities, the material recovery facilities, so that, what ends up in the dump site should actually be less than what is happening now, so that, we can recover that material, which is recyclable. I think this is an opportunity to all of us, who really want to venture into this type of business. This is the time when we are supposed to be innovative. I think my daughter did mention something that, this waste is actually gold. And, for those people who want money is out there. Let's pick it up. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much. And congratulations on this wonderful daughter of yours that you have shared with us. We are so proud. Thank you, Twatotela Mkwai. We will be knocking at your door. So, mutuswatira mashina wonse panoka.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. I don't know whether Nancy is back.
Yes, I am. I wasn't gone,
Okay, ma'am.
actually. I was just having a problem with my mic and I can't raise my hand. I don't have the icon for whatever reason.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mwansa, for this brilliant presentation. It's been a learning moment for me. I have a question, and mine is on the stakeholders in the waste management, and that is, it goes to the waste waste collection companies. You mentioned something about people actually having to sort out their waste, and these waste collection companies also having different bins at their places, which look sorted out. But when it is taken to them, then it is dumped in one bin and then disposed of. And my question is, how are you working with these people to make sure that, what concept is there then in this selection, and then the things are then dumped away at the, they are put again together. How are you working with them, or what is the Lusaka City Council, all these stakeholders coming together? What is the concept behind all this? Because obviously there has to be a concept where they are going to say, if it is plastic, they have these bins, then they have to know where to take it. So if there is a dumping site, it is not for everything else dumped together. So please, can you, maybe you could enlighten us on that, what the concept behind is?
Okay. So far, I would mention that there are some collaborations that are already in place between some waste collectors, some of them. So what has started happening is that, you see, some waste collectors are now collaborating with the women in the informal sector. And some of them even have like small places where they can sort out the waste themselves. So let's say, I'll give an example. One of the organizations I know that are quite profound around the sorting is ZESCO. So they'll have like maybe 7 bins. So what can happen is that if you have a waste collection company and recycling is not part of your business model, it's not what you want to do, you now partner with a company that is in recycling or a waste picker. So before you take the waste to the dump site, the waste pickers now take out the waste that is already sorted and even sort out the waste before it is taken to the dump site. And this has actually benefited a lot of companies that are in waste collection, because the thing is that the more waste you carry as a waste collector in your truck, the faster your truck deteriorates. And also, the more waste you take to the dump site, the more you pay at the weighbridge. So when you take less, it actually works. It actually works for you as a business. So those are the synergies that we're now trying to create to actually make these companies more aware of what they can do. And we've actually already seen it happen, even with small companies like the CBEs, the community-based enterprises, which are like a cooperative that has decided to start running a waste management company or a really small waste management company in the peri-urban areas. They're already starting to slowly implement that. So now the issue is, how do we increase that awareness to act the awareness to create those synergies, and also how do we bring on board the interest with the waste management companies and the material recovery facilities to actually work together? Because if it's a company that is collecting waste at an extremely large quantity, they will probably need some kind of facility where they can sort out that waste from, because it's usually heavily commingled, especially with a lot of biodegradable waste. So they need such centers. That is why we keep emphasizing on MRFs and transfer stations to be set out, at least in communities, so that it makes these synergies even more effective.
Thank you very much, Mwansa. Anybody?
Can I just make a follow-up question quickly?
Yes, please. And then after you, Vice Chair could come in. Thank you.
Yes. On that one, Mwansa, I would have thought that also at the dumping site, do you have plans, again, working with the stakeholders, do you have plans where the dump site is also divided, where, you know, if it is plastic, even those companies already, as they are bringing those things, there is a part where you dump the plastic, where you dump whatever, you know, those things are already in place. So much so that you don't just, you know, put those things already together, you don't dump them together, because I think the easiest would be when people put everything together and they just throw them away. But if those things were manned and you show this is where this is going and this is where this kind of waste is going, then people would already know. Even those companies would be cautious. Do you have that in your plans, or are you working in collaboration with the stakeholders about, you know, sorting the waste already also at the dumping sites? Thank you.
Yes, actually, that is the plan. Hence, the term which I use, like actually, what we need to be discussing is more of a waste treatment facility, because the waste treatment facility is usually the one that has places where the waste can actually be sorted, because the dump site in itself, the way it is right now, that method cannot be effectively implemented. So the way it works when you have a proper running waste treatment facility or an MRF is that, since people usually, you know, they bag their waste, let's say if it's sorted, you know, they bag their waste in the garbage bin liners. So when it is put on the truck, when it comes there, the people start to open these bin liners and they start to put the different materials in different containers. That's if it is done manually. But with the right technology, machinery is able to do that automatically. The plastic goes there, the paper goes there. The sorting is done according to the weight, because you can actually input, depending on the weight of the material, the machine is able to sort out these materials effectively. So but obviously, I think before we do get to that type of technology, what we have to now work on is the material recovery. It is best that the waste is actually sorted out at the material recovery and not really at the dump site. Because when the waste reaches the dump site at that point, you don't want a lot of waste. And two, the risk of infection or mortality, like I mentioned, is extremely high at the dump site, because we have one dump site for non-hazardous material, including hazardous material. These are materials coming from hospitals. We have infectious materials that side. So it's always best that they do it away from the dump site. When it reaches that end, then that's it. At that point, most of the valuable materials would have been recovered. If there is energy recovery that is needed, the materials for RDF are extracted, they're taken to Dangote, and whatever goes there is very little, and not really it's going to a dump site, but maybe an engineered landfill where it is properly buried, it is covered, and there's no further interaction with the waste at that point.
Thank you, Mwansa. And I know you've you have engaged the Lusaka City Council, being in Lusaka. What I have seen around Lusaka and Kafue, because my house is in Kafue, what I've seen around is that in Lusaka, there are beans, Lusaka City Council beans. I've never seen a differentiation between a paper bean, food bean, and what's this? And grass or something like that. So
Yeah.
problem, Yambila City Council, because you throw your garbage in a bin. They don't say throw your paper in this yellow bin. Like here we have a yellow bin, we have a blue bin for plastic and a black bin for food and other waste. And we have, I think it's the same, it might be the same in Germany. We have Wednesday, they come to collect, say, plastic. On Thursday, they come to collect only paper and so on and so forth. Do you think this system, if Lusaka City Council or Kafue Council, if they put the bins with different colors, would that attract people and maybe have Gafira to advertise probably AIDS? You know, AIDS, and don't do this, use this to protect yourselves. If we had a campaign like that on TV, you know, if na Gamma, if it's made by Gamma, it's good, you know, that's we learned those slogans and adverts on TV, and we learned how to look after ourselves. Do you think if you people in this business, in the waste management business, if you spend some money in conjunction with the Lusaka City Council or Kafue Council to bring up sophisticated adverts that can attract ones around, or you know, there is this annoying, very annoying thing in Lusaka where at the market where women and men have got what do you call them? Speaker and if you have those things that make noise on the street of Kamwala or Soweto, tomato cheaper. If you had those throw this in a bin, that would work. Because those things are really noisy and they are very difficult to ignore. You know the things I'm talking about, huh?
Yes, yeah. I do. The megaphones.
They're so annoying, but you listen to what they're saying. So maybe we need things like that. Thank you.
I absolutely do agree with you on that one. Hands down, that contribution, Regina. Yes, it's definitely something that we should be looking at this point. There is need, because like one of the things we actually have to work on is the sorting of the waste at source. So we really need to bring on board the people in the market, but not only the people in the markets, because sometimes you can sensitize the people in that market, but tenants do change. So you can also work with the landlords as well. You can work with the people who give those to my parking tickets for the council to actually also participate in that, because that concept has actually it's being tested in Long Acres right now, huh? It's being tested in Long Acres. There is a small MRF that has been placed in Long Acres Market with our partners Border, where we have these containers for plastic, the containers for paper, containers for metal, containers for tissue, and then we also created a biodigester that is connected to the school that is right there near the market. So whatever biodegradable food that the marketeers have maybe collected from their restaurants or from selling their fruits, it is actually dumped in that biodigester. But for that method to be effective, you're absolutely right. You need to make a lot of noise, and you need to make it for a long time. You need to do sensitizations, you need to do trainings, you need to really make them aware of the benefit, and you also need to constantly keep checking up on the progress around it, because the way that small the MRIF or the bins that have demarcated are working is that there is always somebody from a recycling company. You know, recycling companies are the ones that are mostly interested in this material. So they do hire some guys in the market who are actually now monitoring those bins every time the market is active. And even the design of the bins, we also have to be, you know, very conscious and realistic in which types of bins that we use. So far, we've seen that the plastic bins are really failing us. You know, people are stealing them and they're using them to store water. So we mostly use either perforated metal sheets, or if it's a drum, you get a drum, you perforate it at the bottom, so that if somebody gets it, they try to put water in it, good luck, it won't work. So eventually they start to leave those bins. So it's quite dynamic in the things that you have to consider when doing that. But I do believe that it can work, especially if you start taking them chunks by chunks. Like you get an area, you divide it into zones, you target this market, you sensitize them, you give them the bins, you make sure there is always a recycling company on board and keeping track of how much waste is entering the bins and getting that waste. I think it's a brilliant idea. And that is something that can definitely work.
Oh, thank you so much, Mwansa. I know I haven't even seen you take a bit of water, so you should be really, really thirsty. We've
No, I'm okay.
we've had you talking for almost 2 hours. What I'll do, I think we need to wrap up. Yeah, we need to wrap up. And what I'll do is all the participants, if there's any of you who wants to say something, let me see. Oh, Maria and Isaac. Maria, before I wrap up, but before I hand over to you, Maria and Isaac, let me just say this. Maybe let's have a minute each, conclusions, and then we let Mwansa say the final word, and I'll come in and we'll close. How about that?
Okay, before Maria comes in, let me come in.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. I'll just start by saying that let's really go back to the roots. Let's not just look at it at market level or what other places. Let it start in our homes. If we can start from there, we separate our waste. It will be very easy for those who are going to manage it. If you look at the video that I showed about Sweden, they have reduced their wasting to 99%, because everything else then it is diverted maybe in energy and other things that they are using, even creating fertilizers, if you looked at the video very well. So it's really a very wonderful thing. If we can start, the mindset should start in the home. They separate. That's how we live here. Nobody will throw mold, what we call it mold. You don't throw it in one place. There is always a particular bag that you are putting in it. Now, the other thing that we didn't look at tonight is about policies, and that's where we need the government to be involved. And by the way, we are very privileged. Maybe just a word before Maria comes in, the district commissioner for Lusaka, she's with us. Maybe we can hear from her, just a word before we can go. Madam Zulu, good evening.
I didn't see her. Welcome.
Are you able to speak, madam?
She's on mute, so
yeah, all right. Okay, then I'll leave it to Maria so that she can come in. Maybe later on she can still come back. Thank you.
Thank you once more, and good evening again to everybody. First and foremost, I would like to advise the moderator to have a look at the chat. There were some questions, and somebody was like pressurizing to be answered. I don't know.
There are some questions that I've written. I wrote to Regina. If you can put the WhatsApp number, some people they want to send ideas to us, so they were asking where can they send them. Just put it up our WhatsApp number. We can correct them, and then we can see how we can get them to the relevant authorities. We want to reach out to the government. We want to reach out to every stakeholders. This is not a one-man show. It is for the entire whole community. You know, Abalanda Chan, yeah, to raise a child, it takes a whole village. So to get rid of waste, it takes everyone. Yeah, sure. Then please don't forget Clara from Austria. She has raised his hand for a long time.
That's what I wanted to say.
Yes.
Maria, since you are one of us, and you've spoken, we know who you are. Let's just allow Clara, and then Maria, you come on, my sis. Clara, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Please, how are you? Please go on.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, nice to have you.
Pleasure. I would say thank you, Mansa and Dad. This is a very important concept as it connects to climate change, which is, we all know how the effect of climate change, waste management is connected to climate change as well. So my question was, it could be that somebody asked, but I'm very much interested to know if you have incorporated the kids into changing attitudes, because I believe they are very good ambassadors and advocates for change. Then, yeah, in a way of creating like some sort of eco schools, do you work with eco schools, or have you thought of raising up maybe eco schools where kids can be able to learn the effects of not sorting that things and effects of, I mean, maybe also thinking on enhancing the concepts of reuse, refuse, and recycle? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, and a brilliant question. Actually, we do have a few, some efforts that we have made towards that. So firstly, there is a project that will be starting in Siavonga soon, and even in Kafue, where we're going to be working with kids and training them about waste management and how they can sort the waste in schools, or even how they can make teaching aids out of waste material in their schools. Like, one of the most interesting things I used to do when I was in school is that we used to use a lot of paper to create our own teaching aids, which was very exciting. And the schools are actually producing a lot of paper from the books and the plain papers that they are using in the schools. So that is something that is really interesting. And one of the things that we've also developed is a curricula called Eco Training. But this one we have mostly implemented it in adult education, and also in a few schools as well. So Eco Training is like a literacy program that we use, especially with a lot of women in Maloa Foundation, where we train people how to read and write using environmental concepts and terminology, so that we make it more interesting, and so that at the end of the day, they can equally see that benefit in terms of how much knowledge or reading skills that they have acquired for that. But it's definitely something that I would absolutely want to do on a larger scale, especially when it comes to working with the children. And I think with the right partners on board, and when we have the right funding, I think we can expand these activities throughout the schools by creating a club in the schools where children are constantly meeting and discussing waste and how they can improve waste management in schools and in their homes as well.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Maria, did you come in, or Edwin, do you still have something to say?
Maybe Maria can go, she was ahead of me. I was just trying to see how, in terms of collaboration, because the challenge of, as I said earlier, the challenge of waste management in our cities, and in particular Lusaka, which is overpopulated with high density areas, is that of what makes the person dump their waste. Sometimes it's not that they're not aware. Lusaka City, City Council has allocated waste collectors companies. They've engaged garbage collection companies. But what happens is just amazing. There is no compliance. So these garbage collection companies, which have been allocated the entire city, will just have a few people that are paying for garbage collection. And so those other households, the ones which dump, are not subscribing. So people are left to, it's almost like voluntary. You can be involved, or you can decide not to. If you are on the ring road going to the multi-economic facility zone, Monsieur Tunya from Woodland Stadium going down to Ring Road, and you turn like you're going to New Kasama to the president's incidentally, that's Bali's that's Bali's everyday route these days. There is dumping, people are dumping under the power lines. They've just developed a dump site there, you know. And you don't know, it's like they dump at 01 or 02 because you can't see who is dumping there. But there's steadily developing a dump site, and it's an illegal one, and the council does not patrol. So we need to be very sensitive. And this is, you're talking about Chalala Woodlands and Chilenge. It's not like Chazanga, Mrs. and whatever. Just perhaps to Mansa, we could engage a bit. There has to be a little bit more, as the case is for Base of the Pyramid, innovation and creativity to tackle that kind of behavior, which doesn't come through radio or TV or social media or even leaflets educating people, but more a little bit very creative. Thank you. That was my submission.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Edwin, because that area, even coming to just the whole ring road ending to Kamwala, it's the same problem. And there's somebody at this time who starts burning that garbage. So you can imagine the smoke when you're sleeping. My sister's house is in Livala, so I've experienced whereby the house was like engulfed in smoke. So who patrols, who checks, who's doing these checks and balances to prevent people from burning waste that is combined? You know? So I think, like every other speaker said, we need to have city council. I don't know whether DC is here now, if she can speak. Maybe she can also give us an opinion on how they can help you, work with you. You know, maybe as you come to Germany, you might take, how many trucks were those in PF? 40 ambulances, were they 40? Maybe you can also take 40 waste management trucks and and help. So but DC, I think really we need to work with them. We need to work with the councils. We need to work with the government to see how best this thing can be done. Along Lewanika Mall, you see women sweeping all the time because that's where President passes. You know, every morning he's going through that area. But then where do they take that garbage? Like I said, I've never seen colored garbage bins. They are all in one color. So they throw everything in one place. So maybe, Mwasa, as you come, your emphasis should be also have somebody to come and build what we saw in the videos that Chair showed, where the machines are separating the garbage from plastic to paper to this. I think that will be very, very helpful. But like Edwin has said, and other presenters or speakers have said, we need sensitization. Vatata, Matokwani, we are pleading with you, please, to require sensitization. That's what we need. If we need a ZAF helicopter to drop leaflets, we need that in Chawama, in Mississippi, and all that area. Otherwise, we won't go anywhere if the attitude of Zambians won't change. If there's anybody, I think we should be closing. Can we close at 22:30, and then we are done, please? So next, anybody who would like to contribute, please, you're welcome. I can't see all the hands, so kindly help me if I miss out on anybody.
She's ready. She's ready now.
Oh, okay. Okay. DC Zulu, welcome. Nice to have you.
Thank you so much. Hello.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
We are very much okay, madam. How are you?
Nice to have you.
Right. Sorry, I joined this so late. I think I was not alerted.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know what I was going. I was just going through my phone. I didn't have power. I just came across the link. Then I said, "Who? There's a meeting." That's how I just tried to join, but network is failing me.
oh, okay. Nice to
Okay,
have you.
so
Nice to
most of the things I missed, but all the same, maybe I've heard you. I've heard what you, um, just a bit of the discussion. Quite all right. I've heard what Mwansa has said, how I wished all the contractors would do work the way she's explaining. As I can tell you today, last day, you remember that I had told you that we contracted 150 casual workers to help clean the CBD. But the contract is ending tomorrow. I don't even know how our CBD will look like. We just pray that the council will game up, because now those people will not be there. Tomorrow, it will be the last day, because the DMMU now has said we are done with the 2 months, which we agreed that they are going to be paid. So tomorrow will be the last day. Today, I went round in town to check what is happening before those people can stop. Town was cleaned, but to tell you the truth, we have no trucks to get those garbages. They are just heaped. You only see 1, 2, 3 trucks correcting just once, and then from there you will not see them. So as I was leaving town today at 19 hours, you can imagine 17, I was in town, 16, 17, I was in town. It was clean. But by the time I was coming home, 19, 20 hours, it was filled with the garbage. Where that garbage is coming from, for real. You have said, someone was saying, there are people who don't want to subscribe. What they want is to throw where they are not paying. I think surely sensitization has been there, but it's like our people are just lazy. They don't just want to comply. I think at one time we are going to put hard measures where they will say, no, government is not okay. And yet we have tried our best. Council also has tried, though we still ask them to put more effort, because now our people are pulling out. So we don't know how town will be. Surely you are very correct to say people are throwing garbage anyhow. Government is very, very worried of what is happening. Our people are not complying. We don't know really what we can do. But for now, we are just going to monitor. After our people leave town, we see how best we will do it, then it will come with another method. Otherwise, we are willing to do the work. How I wish those trucks we are talking about can be brought as early as possible so that we make use of them. Or really appreciate, because as I'm talking to you, we can't even see any truck for Lusaka City. How I wish we can one day bring the public health director here, so that also he can answer for himself what is happening, how they intend to clean the town. He has to explain to you so that you also get to know what really the council is doing. Otherwise, I don't. I'm worried. After our people stop working in town, I don't know what will happen.
Wow. Wow.
These people you are talking about, I heard what you said. You said you were trying to give us ideas of putting a yellow paper where people can be throwing, or maybe a bin where they can throwing papers, where others can throw plastics. Surely if we can have that, and our people comply, then it can help us. But I can see our people, they are very difficult. I don't know how we can really handle this freedom which they are enjoying. It's like now that it has gone out of hand. We don't really know what to do, but otherwise, we promise you, if only we can be helped with those trucks and other things. I think for me personally, with my team, DDMC, we are willing to do our best. Otherwise, thank you so much, you people from outside there. You are monitoring our our activities here in Zambia. We really appreciate you. You talk like you are on the ground here.
Because
I'm
we
really
come so often.
I'm really impressed. Huh? Yeah. Once I really want to meet you so that I can have a chat with you, because there are other things which I cannot talk here. I just need to compliment what you are doing. Keep up the spirit, but otherwise, let us pull up our socks. Otherwise, there are so many things which we need to put in place. Thank you for now.
Thank you, Madam DC. I see arms or hands coming on. Brenda and Evans, you've got 1 minute each. And if there is anybody else, we'll follow in that order. Or do you want ladies first? 1 minute each.
There was a hand from Lillian.
Ladies first.
Followed by men. Okay. Go ahead, Brenda, unless if there is
Maybe
anybody else.
we just took for authenticity purpose. Let's go it like this. Brenda, 1 minute. Maria, there is Lillian as well, who has raised the hand.
Okay, I haven't seen Lillian. Okay. Okay,
Okay,
please go ahead.
Okay, for me, I think just quickly, and again, I appreciate all the contributions, and that this topic has really been an eye-opener and a very good discussion we've had. Thank you, Mansa. Thank you, everyone else. At the end of the discussion, I think my conclusion in summary is I get the feeling that we lack enforcement of the policies. Yeah, and we are talking about people's carelessness and nobody is really taking ownership and things like that. But where exactly lies the ownership rights? And I think this is a place where most of the countries, maybe like Rwanda, have managed to strike strides in managing to make the communities accountable. So I think this law enforcement or lack of enforcement in waste management is one of the contributing factors that puts us 50 steps backwards in terms of whatever efforts we try to bring about. So maybe Mansa, as you are interacting and networking with the government and all the other sectors, I think the enforcement, our people can only work with being pressed. You know, you cannot just talk about it, but if there's no consequence to what we are negatively contributing, then we have a problem. Yeah, so maybe just as a take home, that should be one of the emphasis as you interact. Otherwise, we applaud your efforts, we appreciate, and little steps, yeah, maybe everyone else will come on board. But I think this is the direction, really. We can talk of infrastructure, lack of money to push into infrastructure. We can talk of lack of money to sensitize. So sensitization has to go hand in hand with enforcement of the laws that are prescribed under the local government institutions also. Otherwise, I think from my end, I think in addressing all these challenges, for sure, we need collaboration between the private public sector, as well as increased public awareness and participation of everyone in waste management initiatives. We hope we can meet you when you come to Germany. You are welcome. We are in Freiburg, the Green City.
Oh, wow.
Okay,
Wow. Thank you so
and
much,
I think,
Brenda.
please be in touch and we can meet meet up and network. There's a lot to learn, of course, and exchange.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much
absolutely.
for
Thank you
everything.
so much.
Yeah.
Evans, you've got 30 minutes because Brenda took 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Sorry. Sorry,
in fact,
Rachel.
that's what I was saying.
Timekeeper.
Mine is less than 30 seconds. Thank you so much for Mwansa and Dad there. I've got only few lines to concur with Brenda. Brenda, the rule of law, Rwanda is clean, no doubt about it. Even that time we talked about Zambia, that time, there was a penalty. Mom sends you go and throw this, you find the bin is not there. At some point, you'd come back next so supanganda. Why? Because the council would come around, they will pay a fine. Let the state, our great European government, not fear to penalize perpetrators. Let that be enforced. Mama, Zulu, please think about that. That's how it's going to work. Even in Germany here, if you don't take a wicked yellow, blue move, or so, I'll pay a fine. Not worries about it. Number two, please, acquisition of machinery. You've got a great policy, great projects for Mwanza, but at the end of the day, you collect garbage and stuff. How are you going to process it? Do you have the processing machinery? Please look at that. It's as good as saying, let us curb criminality in a country, yet you don't have prisons. So the prisons here are the machinery to process. Germany is target. Come and acquire them. And I end there. I wish you all the very best. There are few young ladies like you that are trying to do stuff. Keep it up. On one side, looking forward to seeing you in Germany.
Looking forward to seeing you too.
Lillian, Maria.
Okay. I live here in Denmark, and I've been living here the last 36 years. And the place is so clean. I've been in other cities, like for instance, London. But once you fly in, even from the sky, you can see that Denmark is very clean. And I heard Edwin, he said something about people dumping waste around Chalala there. I've lived in Chalala, so I know the area. But what we are lacking, we can discuss about all the ideas and so forth, but we are failing to allocate what is making people to go and dump in places like that. And then when we see that they're dumping waste like that, why don't we come in like the Mwansa and Lusaka City Council and say that, okay, we have seen that people from Chalala, they're dumping waste here. Why don't we put up some facilities there? Because once you do that, then you know that these people here, they need a place where they can throw their waste. So you tackle that problem just from there. And then another thing, saying that, it's very difficult. I heard the other lady, difficult to make people comply. I can see that, for instance, TV levies, they're paid through ZESCO and so forth. You can do that. You can tap into that because there's already a platform where you can tap in and use that facility and let people pay if it's 1 kwacha, 5 kwacha, so that it's for all of us, because when we go and pay for ZESCO, buy ZESCO units, we pay a TV levy, even if we are not owning a television. But it's because it's included in that policy that everyone has to pay in case you get a television at one point. Those are the ideas. So when you face the problem, how do you see it? Because there have been a lot of talking here and there. I believe in solutions. Finding solutions. Yes, there's a problem. We have allocated it, but what are we doing about it? Like the one I've mentioned that you see people have that tendency of throwing things. Then you know that people are looking for somewhere they can throw their trash. Allocate waste bins there, So that was it. And then I've seen email where I can send in some other ideas. I've got a lot of ideas. And then another thing, you talked about the waste. There's some waste you can treat it up to a level and lobby from these countries here, which they can maybe use in their heating systems and so forth. Last time there was a mayor last year from Chilawombwe. We talked about these ideas, and the last time I asked him, he said that no, he's in a process of getting permission and so forth. So let's find solutions, because sometimes we can talk so much with a lot of ideas, but we are not bringing that solution, which is much needed. Solutions, when we have seen it's a problem, let's put dustbins, containers near markets, near places where you see that people are fond of throwing things. Go and place a facility there, So that was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lillian. Maria,
you
it's
so
your
much.
turn. And then Kim.
Okay, thank you very much to every contribution we've had during our our meeting here, but I'm not getting the thank you notes from the moderator. My duty here is just to call all the diaspora at large to a call to action. We've heard the insights of what is happening on the ground as regards to waste management in the country. And we called for this meeting in order to, to hear the problem from, an expert like Mwansa, and what do we have for Mwansa or other stakeholders on the ground is as diaspora, maybe to start applying some of what Mwansa has highlighted, like they need more stakeholders. So these stakeholders are not going to be found only locally where the problem is. Maybe they could be found externally. We have a lot of friends of Zambia, and so we can tap into the resources they have. We can tap into the skills transfer they can have. Talking to experts like Exexa, I would say that they've always said that sensitization in a country takes long, but it's achievable. And so I agree with how important sensitization is. But please, as diaspora, could we give a hand to our country? Let's look into many areas that we can help our country through Mwansa's links. And this is the only contribution I can give. And thank you very much, Mwansa, for accepting to come to our program. Thank you.
Kim? I saw Kim's hand there.
Tim?
Oh, okay. We've passed our mark, but I just want to appreciate Mwansa and Dad Mwansa for being here, for enlightening us, for giving us this message, which is really, really wonderful. Thank you so much for your expertise on this subject. Thank you for sharing your insight. Thank you for the job that you are doing. I want to appreciate Maria as well for contacting Mwansa to come on this program. Mwansa will be consulting you again. We would want to have you, the DC, and maybe somebody else who are in line, who are policymakers, like just what Lillian has said. I've seen Clara's comments in the chat, and I've seen all what everybody has said. I have heard, and so as everybody on this chat. Please, let's bring in the policymakers. Maria is calling us for action here abroad as diaspora. But I think the first thing, charity begins at home. The moment we can bring in as many investors in Zambia, but if the attitude back home is just to listen and not to implement, then we are not working. Because Mwansa, you have already started that. And if you can get the support, I remember earlier when you, in your opening remarks, you said it's very difficult to have the investor, because they want to work with the government. So if the government can be on board before we even come out, you can make connections out here in Europe or elsewhere. But if the government is not willing to come on board and implement the policies that you guys are working on, then everything that we are working for is just thrown out there. So if we can talk, we look at this, we have been here for 2.5 hours. We've been talking. We need the mayor of Lusaka. We need the DC. The DC's doors are open. You can call on her anytime and she'll be there to help us. But we need the mayor of Lusaka. We need to see how we can help once they are on board. So once we tackle that major problem of having the government, the mayor, and civil society, maybe we can achieve our goals. Thank you so much, everyone, Mr. Chair, for hosting us again. Ever so faithful with making the program live. Thank you for all the participants. Mwansa, we are so grateful. We'll share the number for the DC so that you can go and see her. And I think, Mwansa, if you may allow, and Chair, maybe we can have a part 2 of this meeting so that we really emphasize on the policies and who the stakeholders are. I don't know if Mr. Chair or Madam Vice Chair would allow that. I think we need to continue on this subject maybe one more time so that we have stakeholders.
Yeah, of course, moderator, that is very open. That's why we are here. We don't just want to talk. We really want to be men of action, because that is where change is. So as Mr. Edwin has said, and whatever Mwansa has presented today, my collective action is that let us engage the government, because they are the policymakers, as we have said. We want to review the waste management strategy, where they are now, and then we put new in so that these things works. It must work. Zambia must be clean again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mwansa, you can have the last remarks, or after you, maybe if DC is still here, then we say our good nights from there. Mwansa, over to you.
Thank you so much, Regina, and thank you everyone for this opportunity. It's a true honor to just speak before you great women and men and just learn from the works that you're doing. And yes, Mr. Isaac, I really love the line that we need to make Zambia clean again, as we were born in the plastic era. But I would definitely love to have a further discussion with you, especially the lucky ones that were born when Zambia was clean, so that you can tell us more and we can ask the new generation, can learn more from how you actually did it in those days. Because I think for most of us in my generation, the clean towns, we've seen them when we've moved abroad. We haven't seen it back home. And it would be nice to actually to have our kids have an opportunity to grow up in a clean Zambia. And I'm very happy to interact with all of you. And I'm even more excited now to come to Germany. It would be nice if I could have a chance to interact with you there. It's nice when you meet somebody from home when you're out there, somebody you can speak Nyanja and Bemba with. So that is something I really look forward to. And thank you so much. And I look forward to further engagements and collaborations. And please do remember that Zambia still needs you. We really still need your efforts back here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mwansa. Thank you very much. Is Vadisi still here?
I am around.
Oh, nice to see you.
I'm around, I'm listening, and I'm following.
Okay, ma'am.
I'm so happy because, the way you are talking, you people, like you are in Zambia, you are seeing everything. And I like it that way. Please continue. We need Lusaka back, a green Zambia, green city. I also feel so bad when I pass. I'm a district commissioner of a dirty city. I feel so bad. Sometimes I don't even get proud when the vice president was in Zambia. You know, it's not good to pretend. Sometimes we had to clean all the way from airport to what, but I was guilty. You know, I didn't like it. I was just thinking, should we just leave it so that she sees how dirty we are? But I said, no. It shouldn't be like this. I just said, okay, let's go ahead and clean and make sure that the city is clean. Let us just make sure that our city is clean. Otherwise, please, on my knees, you people are doing a great job. I really want to bring the public health director from Lusaka City Council so that he can also tell us exactly what they have put in place. I know we are one, but at least he's directed to the issues. I'm on them every time I'm on him. Even the town clerk, I want him to come on board. I'm ready. I'm available to bring them on board so that you can also hear from him, from these people through this.
That would be great.
I'm ready to bring them on board. Tell me when you need them. I would definitely bring them on board so that they can explain. And even when you are talking, you'll be hearing it from the horse's mouth.
Yeah, exactly.
People who are supposed to tell you exactly what their plans are in the CBD and all over in Lusaka. Lusaka is the capital city. For real, we are crying for infrastructure, buildings, what have you. It just takes to clean it. People think maybe we are not willing to remove the vendors. You know, vendors, you find them all over. But the vendors of Lusaka, they only complied with our people who were in the streets. Without that, they are so careless that they can do anything. For real, proudly I can say, my team has been there. It has done a very great job. I just pray that the council will continue from tomorrow where this team will live. But at least I'll also be there to monitor. We are ready to implement. We are ready to work. When you also come in to help us, please just feel free to tell us where you feel we can come in. We are ready as government to do all what it takes in order for us to make our city green. Thank you so much.
Thank you, DC. I hope all the bureaucracies and the red tape will be out by the time Mwansa comes back from Germany. But thank you so much for those kind words. We really do appreciate, and we are looking forward. We'll have, I think the action points we are going to take with us today is to see when we can have the mayor, and the people you have mentioned again, as well as Mwansa, so that we can discuss in depth with the policymakers on how best we can move forward. On that note, unless if the chair has anything to say, I am Regina Mukondola, and I wish each one of you a happy Easter, and may God bless you all. And thank you so much for being with us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And good
Thank
night.
you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. God bless you all.
Good night. Thank you. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
Bless you.
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye. Thank you.